So the notes that we are taking today is slope intercept notes day 2. So we're going to graphing notes. We're going to look at the graph. We're going to look at the line and then be able to write slope intercept form using the line from the coordinate plane. Okay? So let's take a look at example number 1 here. So example number 1, it says use the graph of the line to determine the slope and the y-intercept, then write the equation of that line. So if you remember, our equation is y equals mx plus b. So just like our opener today, the first thing that I like to do when I go to write and find the slope-intercept form is find what my y-intercept is. So where does my line cross the y-axis? So where does my dotted line here cross this y-axis?
1.
Yeah, 1. So what's my y-intercept here? 1. So next to the letter B, I'm going to put 1. That's my y-intercept. So next to example number 1. Good. So from here, instead of finding every lattice point, I go ahead and I start here, and I follow my line to find my next lattice point, which is where that line intercepts right where the grid lines, horizontal and vertical grid lines, cross. So if I'm looking, it's going to be right here. That's going to be my next lattice point. Now, to find the slope of that line, am I going to start with the circle to find the rise over run, or the square to find the rise over the run? Circle. So my slope is going to be 2 over 1. Good. So once I find that information, Dan, to pull your hood down. Once I find that information, I'm going to write it in slope-intercept form. So the equation of the line, I always start with y equals, and what do I substitute for my slope? What do I substitute for my m?
2 over 1.
2 over 1 multiplied by x, then what?
Plus 1.
Plus 1. What's another way I could write this equation?
Y equals 2x plus 1.
Or you could write it y equals 2x plus 1. So the bottom style is going to be in simplest form. When you do your Khan Academy on this particular topic, they're going to want the slope in simplest form. Now, what if you get this equation, bless you, what if you get this equation here and you have to graph the slope? Remember, to get a run, all we have to do is put a 1 back up under it. Any questions on this one? Okay, let's look at the next one then. Okay, so example number 2. What's the first thing that I'm going to do for example number 2, Nick? What's the first thing I want to do? Yeah, you did it. So what is that? What's your y-intercept? It's right there. What value is it? -1. So which variable do I write that next to? The b. So the y-intercept is a -1. Okay? Now, just looking at this line again, what kind of slope is it going to have?
Negative.
A negative. So I start at my y-intercept to define my next lattice point. So I'm going to slide on down here. My next lattice point is going to be about right here. Yes, you may. So now I need to find my slope. Which shape do I start at? The circle or the square to find my slope? The circle, okay? So what do I do first? I count down how many? 2. And then what? Over 3. So what's the slope? -2 over 3. Remember, we find our rise, which is up or down, then our run. If we count down, it's going to be a negative. Now from here, I'm going to write the equation of the slope-intercept form. So I write y equals, what do I write here, Devontae? -2 over 3 Good, minus 1. The reason why I wouldn't write a plus 1 is because my y-intercept in this case is a negative. Now, you could write a plus, parentheses, negative 1, but basically a plus and a minus next to each other just cancels out and becomes a subtraction sign or a minus. Any questions on that one? Darius, put your folder down. Any questions on that one? All right, let's look at the next. Keep moving along. Example number 3. Say it again, Haley.
Starts at 0.
Yeah, so what's my y-intercept here?
0.
0. So my y-intercept is 0. Okay. I find my next lattice point. Oop, that was not the right color. What kind of slope am I going to have? A negative. So my rise is going to be what? So my rise is going to be negative 3. What's my run going to be? 2. So my slope is negative 3 over 2. Ooh, that pink's not easy to see. Sorry. So my slope-intercept form, how am I going to write my equation here, Brendan?
Y equals negative 3 over 2. X plus 0.
Okay. That's one way to write it. What's another way to write it?
Oh.
Negative 3 over 2x.
Because if the y-intercept is 0, you can just leave the 0 off if you want to write it in simplest form. So when you go to take your quiz tomorrow and your test next week, either one of these answers will be acceptable. Now, when you go to type it into Khan Academy, though, again, they're going to want it in simplest form, so you'll want to leave that slope of 0 off. Means the exact same thing, though. Okay. Example number 4. Say what? No, what's my y-intercept going to be here? Negative 2. So it crosses my y-axis, negative 2. I go to find my next lattice point. So you guys told me why my y-intercept was negative 2. What's my slope? Do I start with the square or the circle? The square, yeah, I switched them up on you guys. So if I start at the square for my rise, I do what?
Go up 1, then over 1.
Why did you say 1 and 1? What did I do?
I don't know. Put it down.
Somebody tell me what I did?
Didn't you put it down?
Well, I switched my shapes. What else did I do, though? What didn't I do, I guess?
I guess you skipped one.
I did. I skipped one. So I didn't use the 2 closest lattice points, did I?
No.
Because I didn't use the 2 closest lattice points, what am I going to have to do?
You're going to have to erase your problem.
Erase and start over again? Or when I get my slope, not using the 2 closest lattice points, I'm going to have to do what with it? Reduce. Do I want to do all that extra stuff?
Yes.
No.
Yeah?
No.
No. So I guess I'll erase.
Do your squares right, please. I mean, your shapes right.
No, I wanted to mix it up. I wanted to surprise you.
I don't like that.
You don't like surprises? I don't either. Okay, so what's my slope going to be? What's my rise?
1.
Over my run?
1.
1. So my slope is 1 over 1. Positive or negative? Positive, because I counted up. So then my slope-intercept equation, say it again, Deontay.
Y equals 1 over 1 minus 2. I mean, x minus 2.
Okay. What's another way I could write this?
1x minus 2.
What's another way I could write this?
I don't know. X minus 2.
Just x minus 2?
I mean, y equals x minus 2.
Good. Nice job. So, my slope is 1 over 1, x minus 2. 1 is the same thing as 1 over 1. But anytime a variable is by itself, what number do I assume is there? 1. So either one of those 3 answers would be acceptable on your quiz or test. It all means the same thing. All right. Flip it over. Example number 5.
-3.
Okay. -3 is my what? Say again? My b, which is my y-intercept. All right. Find my next lattice point here. Okay. So then what's my slope going to be?
1/3.
So my slope is 1/3. Then my equation in slope-intercept form.
Y equals 1/3x minus 3.
Questions on that? Okay, I don't want to hear from Deontay, Haley, or Kelsey. Yeah, I want to hear from you. So, for example number 6, I need to hear some new voices. All right, so let's look at it. Did you say, whoa, never mind? Oh, you got this one. Well, let's start with what we do know.
You don't even got the line up on it.
Right.
Yeah, it does. It has a line right here.
Bro, that's 75.
It's
No,
an
it's
error.
not. It's right there.
Oh, your line is very hard to see. So use mine. So use my coordinate plane. So here's the line. It's a dotted line. We know the first thing that we're going to do, bless you, is find our y-intercept. So where does this line cross our y-axis on the coordinate plane? What value does it cross my y-axis? +3. It crosses my y-axis, or my y-intercept, at a +3. Now from here, the next lattice point is directly to the right here. So the next lattice point is directly to the right. So does it have a rise?
No.
No, but does it have a run?
Yes.
Remember how we talked about if it doesn't have a rise, the slope is going to be 0. So my slope of my line is going to be 0, bless you, over 1. Good. So it's going to be 0 over 1. Now there are several different ways, bless you, my goodness. Now there are several different ways that you can write this equation. The first way you can write it would be y equals what? Okay. What's another way that you could write this? You could write just 0x. My, what is wrong with you guys?
I'm sick.
Okay, you could write that, but that doesn't look very good, does it? So what's the last way that you could write this? If your slope is 0, well, if your slope is 0, are you going to have an x?
No.
No, so you could just write y equals 3. Good. There you go, sorry. All right, let's check out the next one. Example number 7. Okay, so what's the +1 stand for?
The B.
The b, which is our y-intercept.
And then -1 over 1.
Good. So -1 over 1.
Then y equals -1 over 1 x plus 1.
Another way to write this?
Negative.
Don't answer. What's another way to write this? Darius? Huh?
Y equals.
Where you get the negative from?
Because you counted down.
Oh, I thought you went over.
Y equals -1 over 1. Wait. Yeah. Y equals -1 x. What? Yeah, plus.
Okay, what's another way to write this?
I think it's x equals 1.
Nope. There's one more way I can write this. In simplest form possible.
It equals y.
So y equals,
X.
nope,
-8.
negative x. You have to have a negative x. So y equals -x plus 1. So in con, they're going to want the most simplest form, which would be the last way that we wrote it. However, again, any question that you have like this on a quiz or a test, either of those are going to be okay. All right, example number 8, last one. Okay, so you're right, this line is undefined, but we still have to write it in slope-intercept form. We can't just put y equals undefined. So the first thing that we're going to look at here, does this line here cross our y-axis in any way?
No.
So what's our y-intercept going to be? 0. Now, what's the slope of this line, though? So again, you can find lattice points all the way down, right?
0.
So what's the rise?
0.
1 over 0. So what's my slope? 1 over 0. So we can have our rise, we can count down, but we're never going to have the run. So when we go to write this, we're going to put y equals 1 over 0x. We won't put plus 0. It'll be nothing. That's it. All right. Questions, comments, concerns? What's your comment?